Hello guys, so let's start building our Selenium end-to-end framework. So this is a series after my Cypress series. Now the most thing that we will start off this series is like we'll just first design the skeletal framework, right, with all the provisions in place. And I'm not going to introduce the concept of parallel execution at the end. We can do it via testng as well, but I'm just going to do it via the traditional Java approach where you can use Runnable, right? And we will invoke multiple threads using that class, that interface. Okay, let's get started. So first we're going to do is make a new project. Let's just do from existing sources. Okay, new project. Select Maven and let it be archetype as it is, right? We really don't want to bother about that. And just name it as name the Selenium end to end. Finish. Open in this window. Okay, so I have already copied the dependencies. I will just paste as it is over here just to save time. So we have extend reports, Selenium latest version, and some commons dependencies, and Guava and testng. Okay, this is all we need to start with. We will need poi as well in later time. That we will import when we need those. Now let me just create another package and name it as com.selenium. Okay, within this I'll create another package. Now inside this Selenium package, I will arrange my application's UI layer, right? So my UI layer will have some common utility functions. It will have some functions that read from Excel data. So let me just, and it will have some browser util functions as well. So now we will just create a package, util package, all right? So within this util package, I'm going to create my first class. Let's name it as browser factory. Okay. Now, how do we start scripting with Selenium? Right. So we already have the pom.xml. Okay. Now let me just create a simple method first. Let's initiate a browser. Public void initiate browser, and it will accept one parameter, which could be your browser name. Right. So first I will just teach the basics, guys. Now over here, we just going to use switch statement on browser name, and within this, if my case is for Chrome, I'm just going to launch Chrome. I'll just create another method over here which will launch the Chrome. How do you launch Chrome? First of all, we have to use the method from the interface, which is Chrome driver. So what we need to do is we need to create an object of webdriver. Right? So let me just import my webdriver. There we have it. Now, what all you need to do is just webdriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver. That's it. That's what you need to use it. Now, will it work? Let's see. Let me just run it. In order to run this, so as I said, guys, I'm just going to cover from basics. So I just need to clarify few points before we actually jump onto scripting. Those points are mainly that will help you in parallel execution. In order to set up the parallel environment, we should know these basics. Okay, let's just call this method and pass in Chrome over here. Very simple script. Let's just run it and see the output. It won't work. Obviously, it won't work. It won't launch our Chrome driver. But I just want you to show you the error message that we will get. If it says exception in thread main because we have only one thread running, the path to driver executable must be set by the webdriver.chrome.driver. Okay, which means we have to set the property for the Chrome. which we will. But also we need to download the latest version of the Chrome. So the latest version can be downloaded from this site. It will also give you that. Once you click on that, it will direct you to that. So I have already downloaded it. So for me, yeah, this one would be need. Yeah, I have a 93 version and I have downloaded the same file. 93.4515.107 is my Chrome version. Sorry, 92. So depending on you can just download your chrome.driver.exe. After doing that, let me just copy it and I'm just going to paste it inside my resources over here. Okay. Let me just go inside this module, open an Explorer. Now within resources, I will just paste my chrome.driver.exe. Okay. Now, as the error message says, let's set up our webdriver.chrome.driver. Now we have to set a system property. So there is already a method available in Java. So what are you going to do is system dot set property, whatever we pasted, webdriver.chrome.driver to system dot get property. Once I do user.dir, it will give me my current working directory. It will give me the path of this Selenium edu folder. Okay, so now we have launched our Chrome browser. Okay, so this was a very basic script. Now let's just implement the skeletal of the framework, the core framework, and I'm going to start directly with the threading concept. How are we going to just implement multi-threading inside this framework? So we will build the basics first, guys, before we actually move on to actual Selenium. So now we will be just dealing with Java for some time. Within that, I'm just going to make new class inside my util package. Let's just name it as Java Runner. Now you can implement thread in 2 or 3 ways. I'll implement Runnable. You can extend thread class and pass on your, the class to that. But I'm just going to implement Runnable and override the run method. Okay, yeah, it will give me that you have to override run method. Just implement methods. And if you would see, Runnable is a functional interface. It has only one method, right, which is run. Okay, in here we're going to basically initialize our browser. Right. How multi-threading works, guys? Every thread reads this run method. The entry point is the run method for a thread. So let's say if I have created a thread t1 is equal to new thread, and to this I have to pass my object of the runnable class, which is Java runner over here. And I can also give the name to this thread. Let's say thread1. And similarly, I'll create another thread and give it a name as thread2. Okay. All we need to do is now t1.run and t1.start and t2.start. Okay, create a method first, public void. Let's just have a main method itself over here. And t2.run. Let's just move these inside main. Okay. Now if you would just do simple s out running thread. Now you can just get your current thread name, thread.current thread.get name. Okay. Now it should print my two threads, T1 and T2, thread1 and thread2. You will get the console output. Okay, running thread main, running thread. Sorry guys, it wasn't run. It's start and it's start. Yeah, running thread, thread one, thread two. All right. So after doing this, let's just move to our browser factory and let's initialize the browser. So now the first thing I need to do, so there are multiple things you can implement your framework. You can actually use a base class or something, browser factory, and every page has to extend this browser factory, right? But in those scenarios, right, where you have a WebDriver declared in a single class and then you are extending it across multiple classes, right? You are actually creating a lot of dependencies between classes, right? So that will make your framework look a bit messy, right? And debugging will be highly difficult job to do in such design pattern. Okay. Another downside is if by mistake you create the object of browser factory itself, right? You will end up initiating a WebDriver or reinitializing the WebDriver to null, right? So that's a problem, right? So you have to be very careful. You cannot just create an object of that class again. You always need to use the same child class object to access your browser. Okay, and even in child classes, if you create a new object and you are calling your driver on that object, even in that cases you might get null pointer exception. So though that is one of the approach where you create a WebDriver class and then you extend that WebDriver in all the pages where you want to use WebDriver. But that's a very tightly coupled framework, guys. You will have a lot of issues. What I personally prefer is having a singleton structure. Okay? Create a singleton class, whichever class is initializing your browser. You should restrict that the object for that class cannot be created anywhere else. Only once it should be created in the entire framework. Now, how do you ensure it? This is a singleton structure. Now, in singleton structure, it is just a name given, guys. What we need to do is we just need to restrict the instantiation of class. Let's say it's a browser factory, and over here, let me just make object of the class browser factory. Let's say browser is equal to new browser factory. If I do that, I can easily say browser dot initiate browser and pass in Chrome to it. This will work no problem in a single threaded environment. Now, if you would see, it will launch one Chrome, but if I perform any other task on this, let's say I launch a URL. Let me just create another class as well over here. I create a package for pages, and let's say we are automating Google search. Over here, you have a method launch URL. Now, in order to launch URL, you have to use webdriver.get or webdriver.navigate.to, but you have to get the WebDriver object. So how can you get it? You can extend browser factory. It extends browser factory. Now this has become a parent class, and it can easily say now. Let's just let's just create a variable over here, public WebDriver driver, and once you launch the driver, just assign that driver to launch Chrome browser, and this should further return me a WebDriver object. Okay, that being done, I'm not implementing any try catch as such. Let's just build the framework and let's just see the common issues that we have in this approach when you are extending. Now, since I already have the access to driver object, I can just say driver dot get https www.google.com. Okay, or let's say gmail.com. Let me just run this one first in a single threaded environment. This one, let's print at the beginning and run it. I think it's finished execution. Did we call the launch browser? No, we did not, right? So let's just call that as well. So how are you going to call your launch browser? Launch browser is inside Google search class. So let's just create the object of Google search class. After initiating the browser, I'm just going to say launch URL.